Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and today we're going to do a project that's a little bit like magic. If you look here, this is something called a flexagon, and it looks like it's a hexagon. And I've got polka dots on one side, and I have this postcard paper on the other side, but it's cut into 6 triangles, or what I've used to make this hexagonal shape. However, if I turn this, if I pull and I squeeze so that every other one of these folds is a valley fold so that you get this, look what happens. It reveals a third side, which I've used to show with photos, which are also cut into triangles in order to make the hexagon. And look, you just can keep flexing, keep pushing it in. This is one of those things that's like magic. It goes on and on forever, but it is just the coolest thing. The thing that you need to do to start is I'm going to start and show you how to create the puzzle pieces of the photograph. So in order to do that, what you need to do is create triangles. Now you can use triangles any size. I happen to pick triangles that were 3 inches. In order to get a 3-inch triangle, and it's an equilateral triangle, so all 3 sides are 3 inches. So I started with a 3-inch square, and if I fold it in half, because the precision, I always say I don't measure, but in this project you really do need to measure because the precision is going to matter about how the whole thing fits together at the end. So I'm going to mark the center, and then with a ruler, if I go from the center to each corner of my 3-inch square, I probably should have picked a lighter color paper. Hopefully you can see the pencil marks here. But from that midline, the center of the square, you can see how I was able to create a perfectly equilateral triangle from a 3-inch square into a 3-inch triangle. Once you have 6 of these, you're going to tape them together, which is what you can see I've done here. I've got orange and red just to make it a little easier for you to see. I've taped them together to create the hexagon. And then you're going to lay it down on just a piece of copy paper and trace around it and cut it out. I've already done that. So here you can see if I lay this back down, you'll be able to see that this was the hexagon shape, and I just cut it out. This is now the pattern that helps me to figure out where I want to trim my photo. So if I take a photo of Katie and Isabel, her 2 cousins, and I place this, I move it around until I find exactly the portion that I want to capture. So then with a red, I use a marker that will work. It's a very fine line. You can see I'll draw it right there. It's a fine line. But I use this to mark right onto the photo, which I've already done, and that will show me where I want to cut. Now I've gone ahead just to make it a little quicker, and I've already cut it out, but I taped it back into the photo just so you could see what I did. So let me get rid of the tape so that I can pull out the hexagon photo. So you end up with your photo in a hexagon shape. You need to have it into 6 triangles. That's easy to do by turning it over. I use the same pen and a ruler, and from each point, I'm just from the points across from each other on the hexagon, you just draw a line, you do each of the points, and it gives you the 6 triangles that you're going to need. So now I would normally get up and walk over to the paper trimmer, but so that you can see how this works, I'm going to just go ahead and use my scissors to trim along my red line. And I'm going to just continue cutting on all the red lines until I have all 6 triangles cut out. Now when you have the triangles cut out, you're going to reassemble so that you have them back into one image, and I'm going to just set this aside. When it comes time to put the photo images together, it will be helpful to have those already assembled, or arranged. Now, in order to create the structure on which they're going to sit, let's look at that. You want to start with a strip of paper. This is just mailing paper. Now, when you have a 3-inch triangle, there's probably a technical name for the height of the triangle. I can't remember what it's called, but the dimension of this height is how wide you need this strip to be. For a 3-inch triangle, it ends up being 2 5/8 inches. So 2 5/8 is the width of my strip. I'm going to need at least 17 inches. My mailing paper happened to be 22, so I just left it long. That way I have plenty of extra. So you can use wrapping paper, you can use butcher paper. This just is mailing paper. Now what I'm going to need are 6 of each of the 3 different patterns. So I have 6 of the polka dot, I have 6 of the postcard, and then I am going to use just white copy paper, 6 of these as placeholders for where the photos are going to go. So let me show you the pattern in which these are applied. It matters. So I'm going to start with the polka dot paper. So whichever paper that you are going to use, that you're substituting for my polka dot paper, it's always going to be in the same position where I'm placing the polka dots. You want nice solid adhesive. I'll move my finger out of the way in a minute. It lines up with the bottom of my strip. And I'm giving myself a little extra here because I know I've got like 5 extra inches in a strip that I don't need. So I'm going to place it down. The next is going to be a photo. Right now, I don't know which photo to put, and I don't know in which position. So I'm using white copy paper triangles as just a placeholder. And I'm using removable adhesive to just put one little swatch of adhesive, enough to hold it in place, so that I can pull it back off as soon as I get this strip created. I also want to leave just a very narrow folding channel. So it's barely sitting there. It's going to be very easy to pull that back off because I only have adhesive right in the middle, and I've used removable. The next in the pattern, the next triangle, is another photo. So I have another placeholder with my white copy paper. And you can see a little bit better now that really narrow channel that I'm leaving in between. And then now I'm switching to the postcard paper. I am going to make this faster by not putting solid adhesive. You want solid adhesive on this. And once again, leave yourself just a little folding channel. Another postcard paper. Remember, solid adhesive, more than I'm doing. Line this up with the bottom and leave a little folding channel in between. Back to polka dots. So 2 more triangles of polka dots. There's one, and here's the second polka dot triangle. And now 2 more photo placeholders. So the white with a little narrow channel, and the next photo placeholder. This is the easiest. This white is really nice because you can see really clearly that little fold channel that I'm referencing. So basically when you have a folding area left open and you have the bottom lined up, that's when it's good to stick. And then the final one on this side is the postcard paper. So when I place that down, this gives me the strip that I'm going to need. So I'm going to go back with my scissors and I'm going to trim along both ends. I'll start with this postcard that I'm going to bring this down because this is easier to work from this edge. I'm going to trim right along the edge of the polka dot triangle, which I realize since the craft paper is really similar to the mailing paper, it might be hard to see. But when I turn this to do this one, you'll have a little easier time seeing, hopefully, that I'm just cutting along the edge. This is you have all that extra paper strip you're not going to need. So what you end up with is this pattern. The polka dots, 2 photos, 2 postcards, 2 polka dots, 2 photos, a postcard. So that is the pattern that starts on this side. Then you're going to flip it over and you're going to repeat, but a different pattern. So if I take this, I've already done one, so I'm going to move everything out of the way so I can just flip it over and show you. The flip side, here is the side that we just did, but everything is glued down nicely, except remember the placeholders are meant to come loose because they only have a little bit of adhesive. When I flip this over, you can see what's on the back side. Notice the 2 ends are where we're going to glue the Flexagon together. So these don't have any paper in them, but in order to start and see where the first postcard paper is going to go, I took red. I'm not even gluing it down. I'm just using it long enough to place. If I flip this over, I'll show you what I mean. Here's how this started. So when I flip this, if I flip this, I'm going to use this just to hold it in place long enough to take the postcard paper and place adhesive. You do solid adhesive. Use this as your placeholder and place this so that you tuck it up against the edge, leaving that little fold channel and against the back. So now you don't need this anymore. You're going to continue the pattern with 2 polka dots, 2 photos, 2 postcards, a polka dot, and then you would have one last red at the end, because the ends don't need an extra layer. They're going to be how the whole thing glues together when we fold it up. So if I get rid of the one that I was in the process of building and go to the one that's already glued down, this is the pattern. In fact, let me turn it so that if you look at this is what this looks like, and flipped over, if you want to freeze frame it so that you can see what the pattern's going to be on the back side of this. That's the pattern that you need in order for it to work correctly when you fold it all together. Now, when you fold it all together, the first thing you want to do is you want the patterns that match to all be visible on one side. So I'm going to find, where do I need to turn? If I take along this edge and I fold a mountain fold, I've exposed polka dots. So now I'm building polka dots. There's 2 choices here. If I go this way, okay, this isn't polka dot. That's not going to work. If I fold this way, polka dots. That's going to work, except for this. This is where it flexes. You go underneath, and these are the 2 that I said we didn't need a layer because this is going to fold over and be glued. So you can see how this is where the photos are going to go. This is the polka dot side. I'm going to go ahead and do nice solid adhesive that will hold it nicely in place and overlap and fasten down. Now you've taken that strip and you've turned it into a hexagon. In order for it to flex, you need all of these junctures, all these places where the triangles are cut, to fold both ways. So I'm going to start by folding everything as mountain folds. I'll just work my way around the Flexagon, doing mountains. This one's a mountain. This one's a mountain. I don't know if I got that one. That one's a mountain. And then I'm going to reverse them all, and I'm going to fold them the other way as valleys. This way, when you go to put it all together, all your folds are nice and loose. So you now have what you need in order for it to work. But first, we want to position the photos on here. So if I go ahead and put this together and push in the center, you'll see I do have the whole thing works. However, I don't have photos in here yet. So if I keep going, you'll see how I get this pattern to go. Now, it's a simple thing to just pull these off and to put the photos that you want instead. So I'm going to just start, let's see, I'll start right here. I'm going to pull one off because I used removable adhesive. It comes right off. And I'm going to take this portion of the photo. You're going to want solid adhesive. I'm not going to stop to do solid, but you're going to want to put solid adhesive to apply. And I'm just going to continue pulling off each triangle and positioning the photo that goes next to it. It's like putting a puzzle back together, so it's pretty easy to figure out how each triangle needs to get positioned. Now, once you have all the photos, I didn't put solid adhesive on there just because I wanted it to go a little bit faster, but it's still going to work. Look at how now, as I pinch all of these folds into the center so that every other one into the center, you can see how I now can turn to the polka dot side, turn to the postcard side. Voila. Back to the magic side with the photo. Now you could do photos on all three sides if you want to. Just position the triangles out of 3 different colors, but lightly, so that you can replace them as you move around. The reason, if I go back to my original, the reason that I used this paper is because I'm going to go back with a black paper and a white pen, and I'm going to have Katie and Isabella write little notes that they can put on here, and we can put other embellishments. You just need to make sure that the embellishments that you choose are flat, so that as it turns into all of these cool positions, you don't have anything bulky in the way. But you can see what a cool, fun tool that is. Now this is using 3-inch triangles. I'll pull these up so you can, well, I'll leave them here and you can see. Here is what it looks like if you use a 2-inch triangle. I left a 3-inch triangle so you could see, and then here is one with a 4-inch triangles. So if you're using wrapping paper or mailing paper, you have a roll. It can be as long, as big as you want. The size is up to you. The other tip that I suggest is, while you make the first one, just take scratch colored paper, construction paper, any leftover paper. Make one for yourself as a pattern that you don't glue together into a hexagon. So this becomes, my background paper, as you can see, was just white wrapping paper, white butcher paper. That's how come these are the edges that when it's folded together, this is what we'll glue at the end. But I keep this one loose, and I always use this one as a pattern. So when I go to make another one, I just say, okay, my polka dot paper is going to be everywhere there's yellow, my postcard paper is going to be everywhere there's red, and my photo is going to be everywhere there's orange, for instance. And that way, all I have to do is use this as my guide for making future flexagons. You know, what looks like a 2-sided hexagon, you fold it and you flex it, and it reveals a 3rd side, which is perfect for embellishing with photos to create a flexagon.